Hello, and welcome to another edition of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is number 128. I'm recording on November 21st, 2025. I watched the movie last night on the 20th, and the movie was Wake Island. This one was only available on DVD. I was able to find it on eBay for $6.63. So I have one more movie left. This is the only one that I've had to pay for so far. Mrs. Miniver, I think, is on Amazon Prime. Hopefully it still is. Wake Island is a 1942 American action drama war film directed by John Farrow, written by W.R. Burnett and Frank Butler, and starring Brian Donlevy, Robert Preston, MacDonald Carey, Albert Decker, Barbara Britton, and William Bendix. The film tells the story of the United States military garrison on Wake Island and the onslaught by the Japanese following the attack on Pearl Harbor. Wake Island was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, which were Outstanding Motion Picture, Best Director for John Farrow, Best Actor in a Supporting Role for William Bendix, and Original Screenplay, W.R. Burnett and Frank Butler. The film shows how the Marines, after being pounded for days by Japanese aircraft, caught the Japanese invaders by complete surprise by unleashing a wall of fire that stopped their first attempt to land on the island. The next attack was successful, in part because communications among the Marines had been cut, leading the Marine commander to believe his 300 men were being slaughtered by the more than 3,000 Japanese invaders. Because of their fierce defense of the island and because the Japanese cruiser was sunk, Marines were beheaded on the way to Japan to work as slaves in the mines there. Cinematography, William C. Miller and Theodore Sparkle, edited by Frank Brocht and Leroy Stone. Music by David Butoff. Produced and distributed by Paramount Pictures. Released September 1st, 1942, with a runtime of 88 minutes. Production. The film was based on official Marine records. A copy of the script by W.R. Burnett and Frank Butler was sent to the Marine Corps for approval prior to filming. Most of the Japanese were played by Filipinos. Special weapons detail of selected Marines from Camp Elliott near San Diego manned machine guns and land battle scenes. Marine crews were also used as extras to operate equipment. The film was a fictional account, with Brian Donlevy's character being based on Major James P.S. Devereaux, commander of the 1st Defense Battalion Detachment on Wake. MacDonald Carey's was based on Major Henry T. Elrod and Captain Frank Cunningham. Walter Abel played the naval commander, who in real life was Commander Winfield S. Cunningham. The film crew had to battle intense sandstorms on Sand Island. Following the location shoot, the main unit returned to Paramount Studio for 3 weeks of filming, while the second unit remained at Salton Sea under Hal Walker to do bombing scenes. MacDonald Carey was so inspired by working on the picture that he joined the United States Marine Corps after filming ended. Okay, so this one, when I started this, I didn't know what it was about. I didn't really know anything about it. And I didn't really know the story of Wake Island. Obviously, everybody knows about Pearl Harbor. I don't know that as many people know about Wake Island, but I had never heard anything about this. So when this started, it was very like rah-rah, music and stuff. And I expected it to just be some wartime propaganda bullshit because, Pearl Harbor was December of 1941. This came out in September of 1942, so less than a year later. So I expected it to be wartime propaganda bullshit. And it was, but it also was very good. It was also a strange mix, like, not that it's bad, but it was like comedic in the beginning. Especially between Robert Preston and William Bendix. They had a very comedic relationship. And Robert Preston, for those that don't know, when I saw his name in the credits, I was like, isn't that the guy from The Music Man? So I looked it up, and it is indeed the guy from The Music Man. And he's also the guy from The Last Starfighter that recruits the kid to come and fight for them. So, but the thing is I thought when I first saw him in the movie, I didn't recognize him. It was only his voice that I recognized because he looks completely different. He was about 24 in this. So in almost 20 years later in Music Man, he would have been about 40-ish, in his 40s. And then another 20 years later in Last Starfighter, he would have been about in his 60s. But I thought he was in his 60s in The Music Man. So I wasn't expecting, I guess, quite as young a version of him in this. But those two were very good together. And, the one thing I'll say is that, like, it's a very short movie. It's an hour and 28 minutes. But they very quickly establish these individual characters, and they all have very distinct personalities, and they're able to do that in a faster manner. Whereas nowadays, I feel like they may still establish the characters quickly, but then there's a lot of filler in the movies. Whereas this was a tight. I just feel like there were times where writers and directors and editors were able to create a more tight, focused film that still had character and story and everything you need to make a good movie. So I gave this 3.5 stars, and I ended up really enjoying it. And in it, but what I was going to say is in spoilers a little bit, but it was the tone at the beginning was a little tough, and it never really got dark. But I will spoilers, everyone dies. But even at the end, the tone was still fairly light, and when people died, it was sort of handled quickly, and move on to the next scene. There wasn't anything gratuitous about it, so didn't know what I was gonna think of this one, but I enjoyed it very much. So it's a short one. I own it on DVD now, so this could be one that on DVD that I might actually keep. But we'll see. So on to the next one, which is Mrs. Miniver, and that is the winner of the 1942 Oscars. I'm going to try to watch that and the snub movie this weekend so that I can move on to 1943. We'll see you next time.